In this video, we're going to be talking about how to fight an Indiana speeding ticket. This is an important video for a lot of people because it's oftentimes the only contact that people have with law enforcement. And if you've been pulled over, you just might be looking at what you could do in the situation, and this video can help answer that. So about me, my name's Nathan Vining. I'm a criminal defense attorney here in Indiana, and hopefully by the end of this video, more about fighting speeding tickets in Indiana. So a lot of people have been in a situation where you're running late to something or just driving somewhere, maybe on a road trip, and suddenly behind you, you see the cop car behind you. You see the lights flashing, and you get the blood rush, and you're like, oh my, what did I do? We're going to talk about what you can do there. Basically, it's important to know that though they're just infractions, speeding tickets actually do have big impacts. It's a common violation. You can see fines from $50 to $500. And also you can see even potential license suspensions if you have enough tickets, or you did not pay a ticket, or you accumulated enough points on your license where you had to do a driver's safety course and you failed to do. So even though it's an infraction, which is different than a criminal misdemeanor or felony, it basically doesn't have the same penal consequences. But it's important to know that you can have pretty severe impacts from a speeding ticket. So if you get one, it's important to do what you can do to reduce the impact of it through potentially negotiating a diversion, reducing the offense, or negotiating away points on the license. Ultimately, the big goal here is protecting your driving record, and that's what we're going to talk about. So if you've been pulled over and charged with speeding, there's quite a few common defenses. First, I've represented hundreds and hundreds of people in traffic tickets, and a lot of times I hear a couple common stories. One of them is the cop got the car in front of me, or they got a car next to you, or potentially they were on the other side of the roadway and they just think it was not possible for them to see them. So one of the first things you can do is challenge the conditions of the speeding. Question if they had actual reasonable suspicion to believe you were the one that was speeding. And when an officer is pulling somebody over for speeding, they have a couple ways of doing it. Typically, they have a front and rear radar, which if you go to trial, they'll testify that they calibrated at the beginning of the shift, the middle of their shift, and the end of their shift. And then when they turn it on, there is a self-calibration. So if it wasn't working properly or functioning properly, it wouldn't even work. So that's what they'll do if you go to trial. But what you can do is actually challenge where the officer was in the observation, as well as question around people around you and did they have a clear view. Another way an officer does detect speed, sometimes an officer does not have radar testimony, and a lot of people think they can automatically get the case thrown out based on this, but an officer does have training to visually assess speed, which they can go to trial and try and prove it visually. They also oftentimes may put forward testimony of pacing, which what they do here is they will follow your car at a set distance for a certain time and run those numbers and determine your speed. So first, you ultimately would want to look at challenging the conditions of the speeding. You would also want to talk to the officer about the accuracy of the device. Was it calibrated? When was it last calibrated? All that good stuff. You want to question the officer's training and procedures to know, did they have the proper training on the equipment, all of that. And then also, you may have your own evidence. It's getting more and more common these days that you yourself may have a GPS or video data that can actually negate any speeding offense. For instance, if you have the Life 360 or cameras in your car, you may be able to pull data from those things and actually show, hey, this is the max speed I was on this trip, and use that to go forward and try and create a defense for yourself. So ultimately, there's a lot of outcomes that can happen before you go to trial. And as an attorney, I would reach out to the state first and see what I can do to reduce the ticket and make it go away. So one of the things you can do is reduce fines. A lot of times if you have a clean driving record, you can qualify for a diversion program. And what that means is basically you don't get a traffic ticket for, say, 6 or 12 months. The state will dismiss the ticket and it doesn't impact your license. You can also negotiate a reduction. Sometimes the state may move it to a non-moving violation so you don't get points in your license. And then ultimately, if there's no settlement options that are available or worthwhile to you, you can take the case to trial, and you actually can prevail on traffic ticket trials. It's just a matter of what evidence you have in your favor that day. So it's important to hire a lawyer. First, they will save time. They know A lot of times they won't have some kind of understanding as to who the prosecutor is, how to reach out to them, and how to get the case started so you don't default yourself. A lot of times there is a 30-day time period where you would have to initiate a case or pay the ticket, and you want to be very mindful of those dates, because if you go forward and you forget about the ticket and don't pay it, you could get hit with a license suspension and you would be defaulted on the ticket. And so ultimately it's important to work with a lawyer. They can help negotiate, protect your rights, and hopefully give you some peace of mind. Hopefully that gave you a little bit of understanding as what maybe some common defenses are. Really, it's situation dependent. You're going to want to, if you're pulled over, write down what happened that day to the best of your recollection in terms of where vehicles were, if you believe that you're going to be mounting a defense for yourself. And if you want to talk to an attorney and review your situation, feel free to give me a call. I'm available by phone or text, and I'd be happy to talk.